Hello and welcome to Gadget Joe, and today we take a look at what it's like to build in the Antec P82 Flow. We recently reviewed the Antec P82 Flow and were left feeling impressed with it overall. With 4 140mm included fans, tempered glass panel, solid build and most importantly, a budget friendly price tag. However, we decided to put the P82 to the test and build a system in it to see how easy it is, how accessible it is, and to get a better feel overall of whether it is really as impressive as it seems. The purpose behind this video is not to show off some high-end components and create a flashy custom looped custom build, but more about the process of building in it. With this being a lower price point chassis, we're going to use some of the lower price components for it. I'll be using an ASRock X470 Master SLI motherboard with a Ryzen 2700X, 16GB of Corsair Vengeance DDR4 RAM, 128GB SSD, 2TB hard drive, Fractal Design Ion Plus 860W PSU, Be Quiet DAC for air cooler, Zotac 1660 Ti, and of course the P82 itself. Once we have the CPU, cooler and RAM all installed on a motherboard, we can then get everything else in place ready to be installed. Take the P82 and open the glass panel with the thumb screws. As we mentioned before, the cooling of this case is already pretty much sorted with the included 4 140mm fans. Next, we take out the accessories box and get the motherboard standoffs out, as this is an ATX board and the P82 doesn't have all the standoffs in place. Now we can flip the case on its side to make it easier to install. Even with a full length shroud, you have a generous amount of space to play with here. Install the rear I/O plate, then remove the rear fan for easier motherboard access. Once you have done this, place the motherboard in and screw in position. Now that we have the board in place, you can see once again we still have plenty of space available, even with a larger size air cooler in place. Turn the case round and remove the rear panel and take the bottom hard drive tray out of the caddy. Installing your hard drive is pretty simple, and it's even marked out which way you should mount it on the tray. Simply pop the sides into place and the tray will hold your drive in place. Then slide it back in and you're good to go. Now we need to mount the SSD, and we do this on that tray here. Take it off, and using these included rubber grommets you simply pop them into position like so. These then stop any vibrations and further protect the drive. Put all 4 into position, then pop the mounting screws in, secure these to the rear of your drive and tighten and you're done. Once again, a nice easy install. In the accessories box you get a 4-way fan controller to connect all 4 140mm fans and power them off a Molex adapter. It would have been nice to see a SATA connector here rather than a Molex, really doesn't make that much of a difference. To set up the rest of the cables you're going to need to loosen them from the cable tie at the top. The power and reset headers, HD audio and USB 3 headers all feed nicely through these slots on the side and the bottom of the motherboard tray, albeit with a bit of stretching from the cables. Connect them to the motherboard from the front, pull the cables from the rear to tighten them up and tidy them up. Now we can focus on getting all the PSU cables into the right place. The 24-pin ATX is simple enough to do, whilst the 8-pin needs to be fed through the top. I actually found this really nice to work with, as a lot of cases have very limited space above the motherboard, whereas the P82 has plenty of space to play with. Connect your SATA cables and feed through the side of a tray once again and you're pretty much done for now. Before we go back to the other side, let's get that fan back in place and feed the cable through the top. Turn it back round and it doesn't look quite so clean, but we can sort that with some cable management shortly. Connect that 4th fan to the splitter and then get the right PSU connectors to connect the Molex power header. Take the hard drive tray out and pop your SATA cable and power in, then slide back into place. Do the same with the SSD and secure it in. We can now feed the pcie cable through the bottom holes for power and the GPU. Once you've done this you can get the power supply and get ready to connect it up. Connect everything into the right points of the PSU and we can now slide it into position, fan side down of course. Once in place you can start to place some of the excess cabling into the space behind the power supply in the shroud to help tidy up the rear. As far as cable management goes in a P82, it's pretty standard. The 8-pin ATX CPU cable sits nice and flush along the back of a motherboard tray. The rest of the cables can then be put into position in the chamber to the left here. Whilst it's not the most attractive cable management, it works well and the rear panel fits on nicely without having to push it into place. Secure the PSU into place at the rear and you're now done on the rear side. Now we can get the GPU installed. To start with you need to remove the metal guards for the expansion bays relevant to where your card will sit. They are tough to remove and might be best to do before you place the motherboard in, but they're simple enough to work with. Put the GPU in and line it up with the rear cutouts and then screw into position and then close the panel to tidy it up a little bit, and now connect the PCIe cables and you're pretty much finished. And that pretty much wraps up our build of the P82. The P82 is a surprisingly nice case to build in. Yes, it's not exactly the most exciting case on the market, it's certainly not got what looks like its P120 cousin, however, it's functional, practical and aesthetically simple. There are things that I like and things that I don't, however you have to take the price point into consideration and adjust expectations accordingly. The cable management is relatively simple to tidy up, however I feel that had the SSD tray been mounted on the motherboard panel, it might have freed up more space for tidier cable management. However, with that said, it still works just fine, and it didn't cause any issues with the rear panel. There is a surprising amount of space within the P82, and it's got more than enough room for even the biggest of air coolers, full-size graphics cards, and there's even space for pumps, reservoirs and radiators too for a custom loop with room to spare. The included 140mm fans are something I keep coming back to. They come pre-installed, which makes installation that much easier and less time consuming. Also, they perform incredibly well too. They are a little on the noisy side, but that's to be expected given the size of them. The side-mounted I/O panel is a genius idea, and I don't understand why more companies don't take advantage of this style. Despite what you may think with that large full-size front steel panel, it runs surprisingly cool in the P82 too, thanks to the large side vent and top intakes. My overall takeaway from building in the Antec P82 is that it's super simple to build in, no fiddly parts, very spacious, slightly plain design, but solid build quality. Well featured and substantial overall feel make it a very nice case to work with. And that's it from me for now. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more, and I'll see you in the next video.